Okay, step into that world for a second. You know, the shimmering lights, the buzz, the sounds of the slots, chips clinking, it's
Mm,
all built on chance, right? That thrill.
exactly, the thrill of the unpredictable.
But underneath all that glitter, there's this whole other thing going on. This amazing web of beliefs, rituals, stuff players really cling to, hoping maybe to nudge luck their way.
It's completely understandable, isn't it?
Hmm.
It's a very human thing to do when you feel you've got basically zero control.
Right.
And that's what we're doing a deep dive into today, these casino superstitions. We've gathered, well, quite a stack of material, articles, some research, looking into these beliefs, the rituals, and how they fit into gambling culture, really all around the world.
Yeah, and our mission basically is to pull out the most interesting bits from all that material to help you understand why people get superstitious when it's all about chance. And to look at some of the most common beliefs. Some are pretty weird, actually.
Well, at its heart, gambling is just chance. You make your bet, spin the wheel, roll the dice.
Yeah.
What happens next? You can't really control it.
No, you can't. And we humans, we just seem hardwired to want control, don't we? So when you're in a situation like gambling, which is so unpredictable, well, you start looking for something, anything, that makes you feel like you've got a bit of influence, even if it's just a feeling.
And that's exactly where superstition comes in. It just thrives in that environment. Our sources definitely point out that superstition gives players that sense of control. And maybe just as important, it offers hope, especially when the stakes feel high.
Hope is a powerful thing.
It is. But, and this is really crucial, the material we looked at is crystal clear on this point when it comes down to the actual mathematical outcome of the game. Superstition is, and I think one source literally called it, plain nonsense.
Plain nonsense, ever.
Zero evidence, none, that makes any difference to whether you win or lose.
But that feeling you mentioned, the sources seem to suggest that has its own value, maybe? And it connects back to how our brains work, right? We look for patterns.
Oh, absolutely. We're pattern-seeking machines. If something good happened last time you wore that specific shirt or, sat in that chair,
Mm-hmm.
your brain might just connect the dots,
Yeah.
even if it was pure coincidence.
Yeah, makes sense. Faulty connections, but powerful ones.
Very powerful. So, okay, with that sort of psychological backdrop, the why these beliefs pop up, let's get into some specifics. The sources highlighted numbers and colors as huge areas for superstition.
Oh, numbers, definitely. 13 is the big one, isn't it? The classic unlucky number.
It's massive, yeah,
Yeah.
especially in Western cultures, deeply ingrained, seen as very unlucky. The research even mentioned some gamblers just won't go near a casino on Friday the 13th.
Wow.
And it's not just players, like you said. The material points out that casinos themselves, think Las Vegas hotels, they often just skip the 13th floor entirely. They just go from 12 to 14.
That's kind of wild. A huge business bending its physical structure because of a number superstition.
It shows how widespread it is. But here's where it gets really interesting culturally. The sources also noted that in some Asian countries, 13 is actually considered a lucky number.
Really? So complete opposite.
Exactly. Perfect example of how these things are so tied to culture. What's bad luck here is good luck somewhere else.
Okay, so 13 is complex. Any other numbers that stand out as particularly avoided?
Yes, number 4. Especially in East Asian cultures. Do you know the reason for that one from the sources?
It's the sound, isn't it? Something about how it sounds.
Precisely. In languages like Mandarin, Cantonese, the word for 4 sounds incredibly similar to the word for death.
Oof. Okay, yeah. Linking a number straight to death. That's a pretty compelling reason to steer clear.
You'd think so. Now, on the flip side, number 7. That one often gets a lot of love globally, seen as lucky. Our sources mentioned it's the #1 pick for a lucky number among gamblers in places like the Netherlands.
7 is often seen as lucky in general, I suppose. And you mentioned the Dutch. Did the sources say anything else about their number habits?
Yeah, it noted they often go for very personal numbers,
Mm.
like birthdays, anniversaries, things like that.
Which fits right back into that psychology, right? If it's my special number, it should bring me special luck.
Exactly. And sticking with lucky numbers in Asia, number 8 is huge. Famously lucky, you see it all the time in game titles, casino designs. Anything targeting Asian markets often features the number 8 prominently.
Okay, so numbers are clearly packed with meaning, varying by culture, by personal connection. Does the same apply to something visual, like colors? Do they carry that same weight?
Oh, absolutely. Colors have a big impact too. Red is a really powerful one, particularly in Chinese culture.
Right, red for luck.
Yeah, wearing red, having red objects around,
Mm.
it's strongly linked to attracting prosperity, success. One source mentioned a slight twist, that the red item works best if it's received as a gift. Others just said wearing it is key. But the main point is that deep connection.
Mm-hmm.
Red equals luck and wealth in China.
I've definitely encountered that association before. So if red is lucky, is there a color that's considered particularly unlucky?
Well, conversely, some players will actively avoid black. They link it pretty directly to bad fortune, bad outcomes.
Interesting. Okay, so we have these symbolic things, numbers, colors. What about more tangible stuff, like actual objects people carry or actions they perform, rituals?
Yeah, that's where it gets very hands-on and often really personal. Lucky charms are just, well, they're everywhere, across cultures. A total staple.
Like a rabbit's foot.
Exactly. Rabbit's feet, four-leaf clovers. The sources listed all sorts. Specific clothes, maybe a certain lucky coin or stone. Even things like seeing a ladybug or having a horseshoe image somewhere.
And these charms, they do that same job we talked about, right? They give you something physical, something tangible that offers that little bit of comfort, that feeling of maybe having some say in things.
Precisely. That sense of control in an uncontrollable situation. Now, here's a really specific one the sources flagged, apparently quite common among American gamblers. Avoiding $50 bills.
Oh, yeah, the 50, I have heard that. People think they're cursed or something. Why is that, according to the material? What is the story?
It seems to be this old lingering association. Like, historically, maybe $50 bills were linked to organized crime, mob activity, that kind of thing. Way back.
Huh. So, like, dirty money vibes.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And even though that connection is basically ancient history now, the belief that the $50 bill itself brings bad luck, it's just stuck around for some gamblers. No real evidence, just persistence.
That's amazing how folklore just hangs on like that. It really shows that pattern-seeking thing again, latching onto something even if the reason is long gone. Okay, what about physical actions? Blowing on dice is the movie classic, right?
Totally. You see it all the time, common in American casinos especially. The idea is simple. Blow on them for good luck just before you roll.
Any weird origin stories for that one?
Well, the sources mentioned one, probably just a myth, but kind of fun. The idea was that maybe way back, blowing on dice could slightly moisten one side, potentially activating some kind of hidden glue, which would influence the roll, obviously.
Okay, that's definitely a bit shady, but probably not happening now.
Almost certainly not. For most people now, it's just pure ritual, that little puff of hope.
Gotcha. What about body posture? The sources mention that. Seems like an odd thing to affect luck.
It does seem odd, but yeah, it plays a role for some. Crossing your legs is a big one to avoid.
Really? Why?
The belief is that you're literally crossing out your good luck, blocking it. This was specifically mentioned as a thing in places like Japan. Some players genuinely feel their physical stance affects the flow of luck, their advantage.
Wow. So keep your legs uncrossed, keep the good vibes flowing. Okay, anything else sources say is a definite don't at the table?
Yes. Don't count your money while you're still playing.
Ah, the Kenny Rogers rule.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
The sources say partly it's just considered bad etiquette by some, but for the superstitious player, the bigger reason is it tempts fate. It looks greedy, counting winnings before you're done, and that's seen as pushing your luck away.
So wait till you're done.
Definitely. The advice is always wait until you've left the table, maybe even left the casino entirely, before you tally up your chips or cash.
Patience, right?
Patience for luck. Makes sense in a superstitious way.
Yeah.
What about just moving around? Does standing still versus walking about matter?
Apparently it does for some players. It's an interesting one. The sources described how some people, particularly in roulette maybe, will actually walk away from the table while the wheel is spinning or the round is finishing.
And then come back later?
Yeah, come back to see the result. The superstition seems to be that just standing there, stock still, invites bad luck. Maybe you need to keep moving to keep the luck circulating. Prevent it from getting stuck.
That's a new one on me. Keep your luck moving. Okay, what about sounds? Can making noise be bad luck?
Oh, for sure. Whistling is apparently a major no-no. Sometimes singing too, but especially whistling indoors or right at the gaming table.
Where is that a big deal? It was noted as a particularly strong belief among Russian gamblers, according to the sources. The idea is that whistling literally drives away your money, scares off your luck, or maybe even angers the gambling gods or spirits.
Don't whistle away your winnings. Okay, what about just walking into the casino? Does how you enter matter?
For some, yes. There's a belief about avoiding the main front entrance.
Why? Too obvious for luck.
Something like that. Or maybe the idea is bad luck might be hanging around the main door, so you sneak in a side entrance to avoid it. Sometimes it's linked to feng shui principles too, the idea that energy flows differently through different entrances, and a side door might offer better fortune.
So it could be strategic in a feng shui way. Interesting.
Exactly. And then beyond all these kind of shared known superstitions, you get the really personal stuff, the rituals people develop that nobody else might even notice. Our sources mention things like tapping the screen of a slot machine in a very specific pattern before hitting spin, or always taking a sip of their drink right before a new hand is dealt, making the sign of the cross maybe, or just fiddling with their chips in a particular way. Tiny little habits they believe help align their luck.
Those personal ones are fascinating. And the cultural rituals, too. The sources had some great examples there.
They really paint a picture of this global patchwork of beliefs. Like Russian players might sit in complete silence for a moment before they start gambling. Just a quiet focus for good luck.
Okay.
Italians has some unique ones. The tradition of touching a hunchback for luck, if you happen to see one. Or carrying a cornicello, that little horn-shaped charm, that's specifically against the evil eye, against bad
The
vibes.
cornicello, right. I've seen those.
And in the UK, players might have a specific lucky coin they always keep in their pocket. Or this one's quite specific. They might avoid wearing brand new shoes to the casino.
New shoes. Why new shoes?
The fear is that new shoes might somehow jinx them, bring on a losing streak right from the start.
Wow. Avoid the new shoes.
That's really specific. And wasn't there a big real-world example in the sources, a major casino actually changing its building based on this stuff?
Yes. The MGM Grand in Vegas. Huge story. Apparently, on opening day, they noticed hardly any Asian guests were coming in.
Why not?
It turned out they had these big statues of lions, wild animals, right at the main entrance. And there's a strong belief in many Asian cultures that wild animals like that bring bad luck, especially at an entrance.
So people were literally avoiding the casino because of the statues?
It seems so.
Yeah.
And the MGM Grand, realizing this was a major cultural issue and, frankly, bad for business, they actually removed the statues.
They took them down.
Yep. And the sources note it paid off. It helped the casino become much more welcoming and ultimately very successful.
That's incredible. It just shows how powerful and deeply rooted these beliefs are. They can affect architecture, business decisions. It really shapes the whole experience. Absolutely. It's much more than just a quirky habit for many people.
So we've covered all these different types, numbers, colors, actions, objects, the cultural variations. But gambling itself has changed so much, especially with everything moving online. How are these superstitions adapting to the digital age? Are they fading away?
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
And no, they don't seem to be fading away. They're just evolving, adapting. Online casinos obviously change the game. You lose a lot of the physical rituals.
Right. You can't blow on virtual dice. You can't tap a physical machine in the same way.
Exactly. But that core need for a sense of control, for luck, it's still there. So online gamblers develop digital rituals.
Like what? What did the sources say?
Things like always playing from a specific chair at home, their lucky chair, or maybe using a particular mouse or keyboard they feel is lucky, choosing specific avatars online that they think bring good fortune, or even just picking which online game to play based on its theme or colors or the numbers featured in it, if those feel lucky to them.
So the superstition just finds a new outlet. It shifts form but persists.
Pretty much. It adapts to the virtual space. And something else interesting is happening online. Cultural exchange.
How so?
Because online platforms are global, players get exposed to superstitions and beliefs from totally different parts of the world, things they might never have encountered otherwise. And they might start adopting them, blending them, creating these new kind of hybrid superstitions.
So you might get someone in, say, Canada adopting a bit of Chinese color luck combined with maybe an Italian charm idea they read about online.
Exactly. Why not? The material suggests this online mixing slot is actually making the whole world of gambling rituals even richer, more diverse.
And what about the future? The sources mention VR and AR.
Yeah, looking ahead, virtual reality and augmented reality casinos could take this to another level. Imagine having like virtual talismans you can actually interact with inside the game. Or being able to customize your virtual casino environment with things you personally find lucky.
Wow, designing your own lucky VR casino room. That's quite a thought. So thinking about the role of all this, is it purely about trying to win? Or is there more to why these superstitions stick around?
The sources definitely suggest there's more to it. They absolutely add a layer of excitement, don't they? A bit of mystique. It makes the whole experience more engaging, more personal.
And provides that comfort, that feeling of control we keep coming back to. That seems key. especially when things feel so random.
And interestingly, our material pointed to a potential shift in attitude. It seems more players nowadays might view these superstitions less as guaranteed ways to win and more as, well, part of the entertainment,
Hmm.
part of the tradition, or even just a psychological boost.
Ah, okay, so it's less, I truly believe this rabbit's foot controls the universe, and more, this is fun, it's tradition, maybe it puts me in a good headspace.
Exactly that. Viewing the rituals as something that enhances the experience and your personal engagement, rather than something that literally manipulates luck. And that shift, the sources suggest, can actually be a good thing. It could encourage more responsible gambling. If you see it as fun and tradition, rather than a guaranteed winning strategy, maybe your expectations stay more grounded. You're enjoying the ritual, not betting the farm, because you know your lucky charm will work this time.
It makes a lot of sense. So it's not inherently bad if you keep it in perspective.
But that perspective is absolutely key. That's the big takeaway the sources emphasize. These superstitions, they can add fun, tradition, maybe even a little confidence boost, but you have to balance them with logic, with understanding the actual game.
Right, you can't let your belief in, say, number 7 make you ignore the actual odds in roulette or blackjack.
Absolutely not. Don't let the superstition cloud your judgment or lead you to make irrational bets based purely on a feeling. Understanding the real odds, knowing the strategies for games where strategy applies, and crucially, managing your money, your bankroll. That's what really matters.
The superstitions might make you feel better, add some drama, but they won't change the math. They can't guarantee a win.
No. The key, really, as the sources seem to suggest, is to find a way to enjoy that mix. Enjoy the blend of the rational side of gambling with the whimsical traditional side. Use the superstitions to add to the fun, to complement your approach, but never, ever let them take over from smart, logical decision-making.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive, casino superstitions are this incredibly rich global phenomenon, born, it seems, from that very human need for some feeling of control when we're faced with pure randomness, pure chance.
And they vary so much, don't they, depending on culture, local beliefs, history, even language. And they're not static either. They're finding ways to evolve and survive even in our digital world.
Yeah, and while the sources are really clear, these beliefs don't actually change your odds of winning or losing.
Not at all.
They undeniably add these deep layers to the whole experience. Psychology, tradition, comfort, maybe just plain entertainment. For a lot of people, it seems like these rituals aren't just about the game, they are part of the game.
Well put, they're woven into the fabric of it.
And thinking about all these varied beliefs, lucky numbers, unlucky colors, avoiding $50 bills, not wearing new shoes, and that fundamental human need for control they seem to tap into, does make you think, doesn't it? How do similar things, maybe less obvious rituals or personal lucky charms, show up in our own lives, outside the casino when we're facing uncertainty? What does that maybe tell us about ourselves and that deep down need to feel just a little more in charge when things feel out of our hands?